Personally, I've known Chuy for a very long time, going back to the 80s. And he's somebody that I've seen on every picket line, every demonstration I've ever been in, every panel I've ever attended, where people were talking about the rights of workers and for fairness in the city. March 29th at Alhambra. Please take a flyer. Most importantly, work election day, sign up to work, and please welcome Chuy Garcia.
I'm really just overwhelmed by the outpouring of support everywhere we go in the city of Chicago. You know, for those of you old enough to have been around, you remember the Harold Washington. For those of you who weren't around, it was an incredible time. And I have to tell you, there are two people up there who are looking down and just grinning from ear to ear. That would be Harold Washington and Cesar Chavez tonight. My mother and my father, because it's because of them that I'm here tonight. I came to Chicago 50 years ago. I arrived in the Pilsen community. I was 9 years old, and then the city of big shoulders taught me everything I know. And it's in Pilsen that I met real Chicagoans who came from all walks of life, and they were white, they were the old-time Bohemians who had lived in Pilsen. They were African-Americans who lived on 16th Street and 17th Street, and that's where I lived. They were Puerto Ricans. I never knew what a Puerto Rican was, right? And there were Puerto Ricans on that block. There were even Native Americans on that block. It was a wonderful, wonderful place to grow up in. And it was while living on that block that I first heard on black radio, of course, the sermons of Dr. Martin Luther King. Wow. And that really transformed my life. I must have been 12 or 13 years old, but that did it. That just opened up my mind. It made me commit to being a fighter for social justice, yes, someone that looks to contribute, yes, someone that looks to break barriers and to ensure that all people in society are given the basic things that they need for their full human potential. So it's great to be here tonight with you all, celebrating the performing arts, celebrating the creative arts, celebrating everything that is essential for human beings, especially children, to be exposed to early in our Chicago. Around us is creativity, and if children need something powerful in their lives, it is influences and inspiration that we find all around us tonight. So I want to thank the organizing committee and of course my longtime friend that I love so dearly, Marguerite Harper. Let's give her a round. Contribute as we take another look at the city's cultural plan and figure out how to bring the art and culture. But it'll be a wonderful experience. You know, this is a very exciting time in Chicago because what we accomplished 2 weeks ago on Tuesday, February 24th, few people saw it coming. People said $14 million, you know, $30 million over the past 5 years. How do you overcome that? And I said, look at Karen Lewis and the Chicago Teachers Union. Collective bargaining, the right to protect our children's education, to build teacher and labor-community relationships, and of course, with community leaders standing by public education, that Chicago began its quest to make Chicago a city that works for ordinary people and for neighborhoods everywhere in Chicago. Of the corporate agenda. Those who would tell us that you cannot have public institutions anymore, that you shouldn't have government to care for the vulnerable people in society, that the free market will take care of everything and will create a better world. Baloney. They're the forces that brought us the Great Recession, the Great Foreclosure Crisis that we're still trying to recover from all over the city of Chicago, and they're the ones who would dare to privatize our dear public education system that is what creates a level playing field for all people to develop their full human potential. That's why we're in this fight. To the rich and powerful cronies of this administration, as was documented in the February 1st and 2nd exposés of the Chicago Tribune, there is great pay-to-play politics in Chicago, but on Tuesday, February the 24th, we took the first step to ridding this town of but there are 19 seats in the Chicago City Council hanging in the balance. So that is people power. It's an exciting time to be a resident of the city of Chicago. It's an exciting time to be a voter, because I'll tell you, on February 24th, we converted a lot of people who had given up. In my acceptance speech, getting ready for round 2, I did ask the question, are you tired of being sick and tired? Are you tired of being sick and tired? Yes. That's right, and people said yes. So now we're moving on to Tuesday, April the 7th to finish the job. Tuesday, April the 7th can usher in a new era of good governance in the city of Chicago, of reform, of transparency, and accountability for everyone who pays taxes and lives in the city of Chicago. That's what this fight is all about. We just came from the Logan Square community where they packed the auditorium to capacity. Whites and African Americans and Latinos and gays and lesbians and veterans, a real coalition of the 21st century, because that's what we're building. That's right. And for people who thought that Chicagoans wouldn't wake up, wait till we reach April the 7th. This week, you saw the endorsements that came out of the African American community. Part of this movement, and we will seize the time, because Chicago should be the city of big shoulders that embraces everyone, that leaves no one behind. So sisters and brothers, join me over the next 4 years in taking Chicago and putting it back in the hands of the people, restoring democracy, and throwing the rich and powerful from our government. For a while, you have been entertained quite well and quite effectively tonight. I do have one more commitment that I have to be at a little bit later, but I want to ask you for 2 things. Will you leave here tonight and ensure that each one of you gets 10 people out to early vote over the next 3 weeks? or if they move, they can still go to the Board of Elections, register, and cast their vote for change, and for Chuy Garcia, of course. So, thank you for coming together here tonight. This is the spirit of a movement that is going to take back Chicago. You are the reason why it's happening. They said we couldn't do it, but we're demonstrating Chicago. The whole country and the whole world is looking at what's going on in Chicago, because what happens in Chicago will affect next year's congressional races and the race for the White House.